Well, we begin tonight with continuing coverage of the Rowena Fire. Take a look at this video on your screen, just some of the flames and the damage. The fire is burning in the Columbia River Gorge that has grown to 3,500 acres, and at last check, it is 0% contained, and thousands of people are being told to evacuate. Here's a map to give you a better idea of what's burning. It's a couple miles east of Mosier and has spread along I-84, moving toward the Dalles. And while I-84 is back open with drivers urged to slow down, a section of Highway 30 is still closed. Level 1 and Level 2 evacuation orders in the area have also grown, and Level 3 Go Now evacuations are still in place for parts of the Dalles. People can check out this website, perimetermap.com, and type in their addresses to see if they are included in those evacuations. But let's get to Alma McCarty, who's live for us near where crews are working to contain the Rowena Fire. Alma, what are you seeing out there?
Sorry, Blair, just had to move some of the, you can see how much the wind is blowing out here. It is unbelievable. So much more than what we experienced on the other side of the gorge yesterday. So I can only imagine what crews are dealing with on the ground. You can see some of the billowing smoke behind me in the hills off of I-40. It is a pretty incredible sight. Now, as the Rowena Fire has grown, so too have the number of resources that have been deployed out here to fight this thing and to deal with it. As you mentioned, 3,500 plus acres have been consumed by the flames, and that includes about 20 or so residences. Now let's take you to some video that was shot earlier today by some of our other KGW crews that were on the ground out here. The fire crews, they tell us that the combination of gusty winds and seasonably record low fuel moistures are the thing that is prompting, that is propelling this wildfire. Drivers on 84 can still see the smoke from these hills, while on the ground, some residents are seeing the damage up close and personal, the destruction like this firsthand. This fire is still at 0% containment, and fire officials say it is moving east towards the Dalles. The mission, they say, is continuing to protect people and to protect property, but the fact that this is the situation right now, this early on, does not bode well for the rest of the fire season.
Just looking up at the hillside, it is June 12th. I almost said July because it feels like July. We're about a month ahead of schedule. Both agencies have done numerous interviews and talked about the potential severity of the 2025 wildfire season. We're seeing conditions that are at least 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ahead of where they were last year.
Yeah, I might have said I-40 earlier. I mean I-84. That is the road there behind me. Those are the hills behind me as well. And last year, Oregonians, they do remember that it was a record-breaking fire season. Very hard to forget that. So this warning really from fire officials, this is a serious thing to consider. Now, we will have eyes on the situation from the ground out here. But for now, Blair, I'll send it back to you in the studio.
Okay, Alma McCarty live for us. Thanks so much. Well, let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino for a look at conditions in the gorge right now and what to expect into the evening. Matt?
Thanks, Blair. Yeah, you know, the wind has just been so consistent in the gorge, still blowing. The smoke, though, is a lot less than it was 24 hours ago. I think that's due to the work that the firefighters are doing. The winds haven't relented. It's 36 miles an hour. That's the gust right now. Sustained winds have been 25 all day long. That's really rough. And look at these peak gusts that we've had during the day today. In the Dalles, gusts of 38. Rowena, there's a weather station right there, 31 miles an hour. Lyle, on the other side of the river, 40 up in the Tom McCall Preserve. That's just above Rowena in Mosier, a gust of 44. So again, pretty rough conditions out that way. Look at the wind gust forecast for the nighttime hours. Doesn't drop down, but the gusts don't drop down below 25 miles an hour until 10 o'clock tonight. They will bottom out in the morning hours, right? And get some gusts down below 20 miles an hour. But by tomorrow afternoon, they're right back up over 30 miles an hour again. So really no rest for the weary out there. The gusts will back off, as I said, during the overnight hours. The early morning hours get down about 15 miles an hour. It'll be Saturday, though, Blair, before we get any widespread relief from the wind.
Oh, boy. All right, Matt. Thanks so much. And of course, we'll be staying on top of this story into the night, and as long as the fire burns, look for the latest info on KGW.com or our mobile app and our TV app, KGW+. Well, now to an update in our Uncommitted series focused on mental health care in Oregon. Following an order from a federal judge late last week, the state is now forced to make major changes to its mental health system or pay millions of dollars in court-ordered fines. Along with that, 2 new bills in Salem could change who gets treatment and where. Evan Watson explains the new momentum for sweeping reform.
A federal judge says Oregon created a crisis by underinvesting in mental health. Now the state is in contempt of court. For years, Oregon has repeatedly failed to admit people in jail in need of mental health care to the state psychiatric hospital within 7 days. The Oregon Health Authority must now pay fines, $500 per person per day, every time someone waits longer than a week.
If you just look at the past year, if the state was held in contempt, we're talking about $10 million. It's a lot of money to try to get the state to act differently.
These are known as aid and assist cases, when people are ordered to receive mental health care so they can aid and assist with their legal defense. Mental health leaders around the state believe sanctions will get Oregon to act, but there's a concern that OHA and lawmakers could miss the bigger point.
The fear is that every dollar now that goes to fines and every dollar the state invests in mental health will go exclusively to serving people entangled in the criminal justice system, and nothing will go to keeping people away from that system.
Chris Boneff is the executive director of NAMI Oregon. He affirms what KGW has found in our Uncommitted series. Oregon has effectively criminalized severe mental illness, forcing people to commit a crime to gain access to care.
Right now, the advice we give on our resource helpline when a family calls and they have a loved one at very high acuity and they've cycled through things is you have 2 options. Watch your loved one further deteriorate or call the police and hope they get arrested.
Judge Adrian Nelson came to the same conclusion, writing, "The state has failed to invest in community behavioral health systems such that for many individuals, the only opportunity to receive treatment is upon facing criminal charges." To change the system, Boneff is spearheading 2 bills, one lowering the state's criteria for civil commitment or forced mental health care, and one helping develop more licensed residential treatment options in the state. He says he's confident both bills will pass. They're progressing through committees.
We can't just do aid and assist or civil. We have to do both. We have to invest in both. And we have to build faster so we can add capacity.
Community mental health services and earlier intervention are the priorities for Disability Rights Oregon.
At the root of it, it's a human life that we all value, that we want to get the services they need to get better.
A similar contempt ruling in Washington forced the state to invest more than $100 million to improve its mental health system. Boneff says the time is now for Oregon to kickstart into action, with just weeks left in the legislative session and fines racking up each day.
The pressure's on the governor, the pressure's on the legislators, the pressure's on budget writers. If they fall short, the state will suffer.
Well, Evan Watson joins me now. Evan, let's focus on that civil commitment bill. If it ends up passing, what would it do?
Yeah, essentially broaden definitions for civil commitment. For years in Oregon, as we've reported on this show many times, it's been nearly impossible for someone to qualify for civil commitment. Many families have shared those stories. The bar has just gotten too high in Oregon. So this would essentially allow a judge to look at recent history, Blair. It would allow a judge to consider whether there's reasonable threat in the future to either danger to self or danger to others, and go beyond the imminent danger threshold that we've seen for so long. And that would open up civil commitment to be more available to more people as an option in the state hospital.
And so as far as that contempt order would go, do we know how many people are currently waiting in jail to be transferred to the state hospital for mental health restoration, those aid and assist cases?
Yeah, it's a good question. Currently, there are about 32 people as of the end of May that are waiting for admission to the state hospital in these aid and assist cases. In the month of May, we know that people waited an average of 15 days. That's about twice as long as the federal standard of 7 days that the judge has here. And ultimately, if you wait 15 days, these fines are for every day, every person who is waiting beyond 7 days, $500 per person. So you can imagine that's just for the month of May. Each month as it goes on, this will rack up really quickly if the state doesn't get a handle on this, step in, or find more comprehensive solutions.
My goodness. Evan Watson, thanks so much.
Got it.
Well, after weeks of deliberation and a 6-hour meeting today, Multnomah County commissioners finally approved a $4 billion budget, making up for a $15 million shortfall in the county's general fund and about $70 million gap in the Homeless Services Department. Now, this year's budget talks certainly caught the community's attention. Today, more than 250 people sent in written testimony. Here's what the county chair had to say at the start of today's meeting.
In an especially challenging budget year, at a time in our history when so many people are struggling to make ends meet, I appreciate the hard work and commitment that has gone into this year's process. I look forward to today's continued discussions, and we wrap up, which has been an incredible 23 budget work sessions.
Okay, so here are some of the highlights. There were some what the county calls painful trade-offs made to preserve homelessness and public safety programs. Overall, at least 100 full-time staff positions were cut, including significant reductions to the offices of the county chair and the chief operating office. A homeless outreach program that Portland Day Centers say they heavily rely on was also cut. And the entire Office of Sustainability was set to be eliminated. But today, the county lessened that cut, maintaining those who are currently on staff. The budget funds school-based mental health services, employment services for homeless people, and eviction prevention services, along with 24-hour shelters and rent assistance. And in a change of course, commissioners voted to stabilize the district attorney's office, which was facing major cuts. DA Nathan Vasquez said in a statement, in part, "I appreciate the commission's votes to restore nearly all of the district attorney's office funding and bring our budget closer to current service levels. So many individuals and organizations made phone calls, sent letters, and showed up to urge the commission to fully fund our work. Your voices made a difference. While this budget doesn't solve every challenge, we still face high caseloads and staffing shortages. That's a conversation for another day. Today, I simply want to say thank you." Well, still ahead on the story, a dramatic incident at a Homeland Security press conference that led to a California senator being handcuffed. Take a look. Plus, the latest arrests here in Portland as people continue to protest at the city's ICE facility. Stay with us. Well, let's head to far eastern Oregon now, where state police are investigating after a Malheur County deputy shot and killed a man this past weekend in the town of Harper. The sheriff says a deputy responded to a call for an assault and was trying to cite 54-year-old Eli Reeder when Reeder threw a piece of lumber at him and began resisting arrest. The deputy tried using a taser, which did not work, and that's when the sheriff says Reeder assaulted the deputy, picked up a hammer, and began moving towards the deputy, who then shot him. Reeder's brother says he had schizophrenia.
He would get so stressed out that it would cause him to have a psychotic episode. And it would trigger something in his brain because of the stress overload. If we can shed some light on mental health awareness and maybe, maybe advocating for more training, for more compassion, for more communication between law enforcement agencies and more understanding of how to deal with somebody has a mental health condition.
Well, after reviewing the state police investigation, the Malheur County District Attorney will decide whether or not the shooting was justified. Well, meanwhile, a federal judge says the Trump administration illegally deployed the National Guard in California to address the protests against ICE happening there. Within the last hour, the judge issued a temporary restraining order directing the president to return control of the National Guard to California Governor Gavin Newsom. Now, that's set to take effect at noon tomorrow. The White House had no immediate comment, but filed an appeal for the ruling. And things took a dramatic turn earlier this afternoon after California Senator Alex Padilla was forcibly removed from a news conference with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Padilla's office shared this video here of multiple men physically pushing the senator out of the room after trying to ask Secretary Noem a question. He was then taken into a nearby hallway where you can see he's pushed to the ground, and he was handcuffed by officers wearing FBI vests. However, the handcuffs were removed shortly after, and Padilla was not arrested.
If this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country. We will hold this administration accountable.
Democrats are condemning what happened. DHS says Padilla chose disrespectful political theater and interrupted a live news conference. Well, overnight, Portland police arrested 3 people at the ICE facility on South Macadam Avenue. Portland police say officers witnessed a man put flammable materials up against the building, and another man put a lit flare on them, starting a fire. Someone in the facility put the fire out before it caused significant damage. But officers moved in and arrested the 2 suspects, 34-year-old Trenton Barker and 25-year-old Austin Deaver, both of Portland. Officers say while they were making those arrests, 27-year-old Giovanna Carrasco punched and tried to choke an officer. She was also taken into custody. Today, a small group of protesters remained peacefully outside the building. Federal officers have arrested 4 people leaving immigration court hearings in Portland in just over a week. Now, we wanted to take a moment to answer this question from a viewer named Carolyn that came in this week. She wrote, regarding the individuals who have been recently taken into custody by ICE in Portland, I thought Portland was a sanctuary city. Can you explain why ICE are allowed to capture individuals if we are a sanctuary city? Well, Carolyn, thanks for the question. We get this one fairly often. Being a sanctuary city or a sanctuary state, it simply means that local resources, including law enforcement, will not help federal immigration officers without an order from a judge. So it basically limits or eliminates cooperation with the feds related to immigration enforcement. But ICE officers are still able to operate here. Now, Oregon became the first sanctuary state way back in 1987 and strengthened those protections in 2021. This week, Portland Police Chief Bob Day addressed this delicate balance that his department faces.
You know, Portland Police Bureau is trying to walk a very fine line. and I understand that. And it is not a perfectly straight line. It is one that is constantly shifting underneath our feet. The reality is that this effort around immigration is happening. It's not something that's we can deny. It's happening. As my friend likes to say, life is in session. This is going on, and we are being called upon to show up in that space in some way. And I am very clear and very certain that I understand the rules of engagement as they relate to immigration and immigration enforcement and the role of the Portland Police Bureau in that.
Okay, while we're on the topic of immigration, this headline caught our eye this week as it's making the rounds online. A Newsweek article titled, 75 Democrats express gratitude to ICE in anti-Semitism vote amid LA riots. Okay, kind of a lot going on there in the headline. But let's take a closer look. Two of the Democrats who apparently expressed their gratitude to ICE are from our area, Janelle Bynum of Oregon and Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez of Southwest Washington. Now, if you support either of those candidates, you may be surprised that they would express such gratitude, considering the political heat surrounding ICE and the president's immigration policies. But this is a situation where that Newsweek headline is a bit misleading. Let's take a closer look. The article talks about a recent vote in the House of Representatives on this resolution here that was introduced by a Republican from Colorado, Resolution 488. It's just over 2 pages long and condemns the recent terrorist attack in Boulder, Colorado, where a man who was in the U.S. illegally burned over a dozen people in an anti-Semitic attack. The end of the resolution condemns the attack, affirms that communication between state, local, and federal law enforcement is necessary to prevent terrorist attacks. And finally, the last element reads, quote, expresses gratitude to law enforcement officers, including U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement personnel, for protecting the homeland. So, while the Newsweek headline makes it seem like the main crux of the resolution was all about gratitude for ICE, it was actually about condemning the terrorist attack in Boulder, with a final footnote, you could say, about ICE. When we asked the reps about their yes votes, Gluesenkamp-Perez told us, after the horrific attack with Molotov cocktails, an improvised flamethrower against Jewish Americans in Colorado peacefully demonstrating for the return of hostages, I stood with an overwhelming majority of my bipartisan colleagues to condemn anti-Semitic violence in the strongest terms. She went on saying, as a member of the House minority, I don't draft the resolutions we vote on, but I also refuse to vilify law enforcement officers who are a core part of taking on violent gangs, exploiting humans, and trafficking fentanyl into our communities. And Rep. Bynum wrote to us saying, what we're seeing in LA and across the country is inhumane, illegal, and un-American. I will always speak out against injustice and stand up for the vulnerable communities I'm proud to represent. The story is back right after this. Welcome back. Well, lost amid yesterday's wildfire coverage here at home, the death of the Beach Boys co-founder Brian Wilson, widely considered one of the most gifted singers, songwriters, and producers in the history of American pop music. Wilson and the Beach Boys captured the optimism of the early 60s with the summertime feel of songs like I Get Around, Good Vibrations, and Surfin' in the USA. Later in life, drug use and mental illness led to eccentric behavior and well-documented abuse by his therapist. No cause of death has been announced. Wilson was 82 years old. Well, we took a trip into the KGW vault to see if we had any footage of Wilson here in the Portland area. And we found a clip from an old segment called Tonight's Ticket. Our crews would head out to music venues in town and film part of a concert, playing a clip at the end of the 11 o'clock news. So here is part of Tonight's Ticket from October 19th, 1999, featuring Brian Wilson.
Inside of me for I don't know how long. I don't know why, but I keep thinking something's bound to go wrong. But she looks in my eyes and makes me realize that she said, don't worry, baby. Don't worry, baby. Don't worry, baby. Don't worry, baby.
I just love that. Well, we would love to hear any of your Brian Wilson memories. Maybe the Beach Boys hold a special place in your heart. Let us know about it. Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Well, that's the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. The good stuff is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. Have a great Thursday night. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night at 6:30.